ladies and gentlemen. I am up and running. Now, I notice, I know you're probably wondering why I've got a laptop right here as well. And I've decided to kind of challenge myself here and do two things at once. Um, I'm doing the same video live on both Facebook and YouTube. Okay. I'm doing it all at once here. Okay. Now, first of all, I want to say welcome to this video. I am your host, your favorite dark sorcerer, Angelus, son of Abaddon. And today I'd like to discuss personal growth within past and present applications of your magical journey. Now, along the journey of a practitioner, one really needs to reflect upon where you've been. What got you interested in magic? What got you interested in the tradition that you found yourself walking? No matter if it's Voodoo, Hoodooism, Santa Morte, Santeria, Palo Mayombe, Quimbanda, Umbanda, Druidism, Shamanism, Necromancy, Satanism, witchcraft, maybe even Gypsy or even Gothcraft for that matter. Maybe you're walking the path of the vampiric lifestyle. You know, there's a lot of journeys out there, pathwise, that you can learn from and to walk. Now, right here is a couple grimoires. You can tell they're kind of worn, they're kind of, you know, used a little bit because I've done a lot of writing in them. And today I was at work and I was reminded of some stuff that kind of caught my attention, something that made me realize and kind of recognize that I haven't been truly remembering where I come from. A coworker of mine was discussing the life of where my coworker came from, her family life. And I was thinking about the journey of how you awaken to your own perception, your own identity. And what's interesting to note here is when you're born, you are brought into this world on a innocent bystander status. And as time goes on, we're hounded by the viewpoints of the world. It's not your personal belief structure that is beat into you from an early age, much like being indoctrinated into the Zadian church. They start at birth, they baptize you at birth, and then they bring you up in that church so that you only know their style. The same applies within your household, your family life style. Now, personally, I don't really remember much of my first 3 years. I only know what I've been told by workers and my foster mother, the woman that raised me. What I do know is that she always told me whatever makes you happy is what is a good thing. She never really set restrictions on a religious or philosophical viewpoint, which was awesome because it gave me the freedom to not only explore religions, but also the philosophies that in the myths and the the art that is surrounded these awesome religions, things that are very, very old. Now, reflecting and contemplating upon this stuff led me to my old grimoires, to which I haven't taken off the shelf since I moved into this place, into this apartment, just about, what was it, back in 012, 013 area, when I started the Order of the Black Thorn. And so I really haven't gone through my old grimoires and everything and going through my old journals. So I delved into them when I got home, and I was amazed at the creeds and the notes that I had taken based off the various different traditions, from the traditional satanic viewpoints to like the 13 laws of the brotherhood of Satan, the 11 adversarial doctrines by Michael W. Ford, and the adversarial Bible. Things that really catch your interest, and things that really make an impact in your life. I know a lot of people are not fortunate enough to be able to have that free reign until later on in life, when they delve into the left-hand path and occultism, and they don't really understand the roots of the traditions. They really don't understand the backbone of what they're trying to get into, and because they've been hounded throughout their life, either by Zadian, the JCI traditions of what's classified as good and evil, right and wrong. Don't get mixed up with demons, because they will end your life. Their only goal is to end you. You know, if you get into witchcraft, they'll tell you, oh, that's not a good thing, because you will get possessed and you'll end up losing your life. Well, let's talk about possession. It's actually less a common thing than you're led to believe, just like witchcraft being evil. Those of you who are old enough to remember the Satanic Panic will note that it wasn't a good time to be a practicing Satanist at that time. The late 80s, early 90s, everyone that would have come out as a devil worshiper or a Satanist was avoided like the plague, hunted down, persecuted even. And when you think about it, it was the modern day witch hunt. Now, why did this occur? Was it because of the fear of not understanding the traditions that are springing up, coming out into the open after hundreds of years of being underground, persecuted, burned at stake for the better part of 1,000 years? Maybe. But things like the Ouija board that used to be spiritual, used to be used for seances, are now sold in children's stores as kids' games. Could this not open a door? Especially when you got a bunch of kids getting around and playing with it? Sure, they could open a portal if they get lucky, but without the knowledge of what's behind it, how do you open that portal? Do they go by Hollywood propaganda? Do they go by the JCI? Or do they join a coven and start learning? Perhaps even pick up a book like, say, The Complete Book of Witchcraft, or by Raymond Buckland, or The Solitary Witch by Raven Silverwolf. and start learning the basics of it. Perhaps the book Ouija by Aleister Crowley, a very well-known occultist, a wise man that stood his ground, is now known as the wickedest man alive. Perhaps getting into witchcraft is the best thing for people. I know from an early age, I was always fascinated with things of death, darkness. I got into, after being visited by an angel, one of light. I didn't know who it was at the time until I started delving in at 11 years of age. 6 years later, 6 years, delved into occultism, started learning demonology, started learning gothcraft, vampiric practices, necromancy, Satanism. My first book on Satanism, just like everyone else, was Anton Szandor LaVey's The Satanic Bible. It was the most popular back in the day. Not like today where you have a dozen or so Bibles, Unholy Bible, Satan's Bible, the demonic Bible, the witch's Bible, the Wiccan Bible. You know, you have so many different Bibles out there, even the Christian and Satanic Bible by Jeremy Adam Katz. Things are more corrupted and watered down today compared to the old school practitioners that really knew their stuff. They knew what it took to be a Satanist, what it took to be a practicing witch, warlock, sorcerer. It wasn't just reading a book and thinking you're a master. No. Back in the day, it was actions and deeds, aligning with words. You literally spoke the terminology. You walked the line. You weren't afraid to step into a graveyard, light a couple candles, and hold a seance. Or even do an evocation or invocation out of your own home because you had the knowledge to back it up. Today, while I was going over these grimoires, I have seen firsthand the difference between somebody who truly is an occultist and opening up to the darkness, opening up to these spirits, allowing for those relationships to form, build and forging those relationships with all sorts of spirits. Some are fictional, others are actual entities. I've come across a few beings that turned out to be nothing more than a hoax in my career. But I've come across so many more that were actually real. Angelics, the jinn, demonic, even spirit. It's not like today where every group that you get into on either on Facebook or YouTube pages and you see 9-year-olds talking about vampirism. It's, or you're just sitting there watching Facebook video, groups, and you're scrolling down and people are asking, do you think it's all right to curse somebody that has taken your kids away? Or perhaps, a photo of Jesus having relationships with Jesus. These are the modern day imagery of what people see and think and believe that Satanism is today, or even satanic witchcraft. And I was talking with a friend of mine recently, and we were discussing the fact that there's a lot of people who claim to be practitioners, but very few actually share their knowledge, share their wisdom, separating fact from fiction, truth from lies. You know, the guy last night when I was out walking here in the city, I've run into this guy several times and he knows who I am and what I'm about. I wasn't showboating or anything, but he asked me to prove my status, my abilities. So I did. It freaked him out. It really freaked him out. Not because of the fact that he asked me to do, I did. It was more of the fact that he couldn't believe it was actually real, that it actually occurred. Manipulation of the energy fields around somebody isn't as easy as it sounds. It's that focus, that discipline, that determination. It's visual. You have to physically view what you're doing. Open up your third eye, your chakras, your kundalini, your ka. And you have to learn to reach out to do this stuff. It takes dedication and hard work. What's that old expression? Blood, sweat, tears? It's true. Reading a book doesn't make you a master of anything. It doesn't make you a knowledgeable person. You may remember the details and you can quote the details. But what separates somebody who is serious about the arts and those that are considered dabblers is a set of creeds. For an example, one of the things that caught my attention was the Nine Noble Virtues. I really liked the Nine Noble Virtues because I've always been a man of honor. I've always been a man of integrity, respect, courage, discipline, fidelity, honor, hospitality, industriousness, perseverance, self reliance, and truth. These are things that a practitioner really needs to know. Anyone who gets into the witch's creed, the witch's pyramid, will find out that there is more to them than just saying a word or identifying it with an element. It's more about a journey of self-discovery. It's a journey to find yourself, but also to be truthful with yourself, to be open to the possibilities that there is more to what you're capable of, and be able to grow and mature within the arts. One of the other things that I wrote down in here, outside of the alphabets, was exercises, but also the 21 Satanic Points by Anton Szandor LaVey. Finding a lot of things that really speak to you. Going into, like I said, the 13 Laws of the Brotherhood. Personally, the 13 Laws of the Brotherhood really spoke to me. And this is a traditional satanic path working that was based off the ONA, the Order of the Nine Angles. which is the oldest traditional satanic organization out there. Goes all the way back into the 18th century. Some even state that it went back even further to the 17th century, but yet no one's really found proof on that. You go into the 9 satanic statements, the holidays, the rules of the earth, the sins, the ritual tools and what they're used for, the types of rituals that can be performed, the invocations and evocations, the witch's oath or the witch's pyramid, you know? And I'll even show this to you so you can actually see it. I actually bought this as a blank page, blank book of shadows. And I drew the lines with a ruler and a pen, and I wrote everything in pen because I wanted it to be authentic. I wanted my grimoires to be shown that errors can be made. I wanted it to be so that you could see that it's a part of growth in the journey of enlightenment, much like the adversarial doctrines of the Luciferian. I've even got candle colors in here, ritual clothing, the different symbols and the different items on your altar. But like I said, reading a book doesn't make you a master of your religion, your faith, your philosophy. Sometimes, and I'm going to quote a brother here, somebody that I consider my brother, a friend, and a fellow practitioner. And he actually did a video on YouTube. And he said the title of it, "The Day I Threw Out My Grimoires," or my books. I think it was the occult books, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, after watching the video, it kind of hit close to home because of the fact that I did the same thing a long time ago. The only difference is I didn't throw them out. I actually burned them. Literally, I set them ablaze and watched them burn. Not because of pyromancy, but more of the fact that I didn't want them falling into unworthy hands. One of the things that you learn in a coven setting is that it's about protecting the coven. It's about protecting the members of that coven and the workings within that coven. It's not like solitary where the only person you have to look out for is yourself. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with protecting yourself and watching out for yourself. That's always a good thing. In fact, I actually enforce it. I recommend it even. But to see where I was all those years ago, from my earliest grimoires, my earliest journals, to seeing where I am now running an order, working a part-time job, as an ordained minister, even putting myself out there for a practitioner for hire, teaching. Who would have thought 10 years ago that today I would be sitting here doing educational videos as a high priest, a magus? Hey, some even refer to me as a black pope. Personally, to me, they're just titles. They're meaningless to me. Because when it comes down to it, why would you want to put a limitation on yourself? The mundane world lives off labels. They live off titles. Governor, president, officer, magistrate, priest, reverend. It's all associated with the JCI, a religion that is hostile to anyone who of a different belief. So the fact that this brother got rid of all his books and started really delving in to the arts on a professional level, and may I say, a spectacular journey, because I've seen all of his videos and I am impressed. Even the ones that he's doing today, where he's invoking and evoking all these entities throughout the month, 4 entities, sometimes more. I see him coming up with new videos on who he's invoking or evoking at that time. And here I am working with probably one or two beings a month. And I it kind of makes you, want to step up and go, okay, I'm gonna have to bring on a few more. But it's not a challenge. It's not about how many you invoke or evoke throughout the month. It's more about that journey, that mutual respect between you and those spirits. It's about your personal growth and your personal enlightenment, your personal understanding along the journey. Now, I realize that, and I do want to put this out there as well, that a lot of people, you're, because of your location or your region, your resources are really limited. But there are places out there that you can get your items from to learn. On one hand, you got Luciferian Apotheca. Okay. On the other hand, you have azurgreen.net, Amazon.com, eBay.com. These are all sources of information and that you can go to and buy all these books. I have a Bruja or that lives down in Massachusetts. This guy, he's a real known occultist. He comes from a long hereditary line all the way back to Cuba. And his work is very, very good. He shares a lot of his books. A few years back, I ended up starting to get into what is classified as white witchcraft. The healing aspects and getting into the herbalism aspects of healing and cleansing and purifications. And it was kind of fascinating because when I started watching his videos, I didn't understand a lot about what he was saying, a lot of his meanings, until I started really delving into his religion. His comes from a family line, a hereditary line. So a lot of it was handed down to him. But the tradition is there. It's seen in all the Indo-African traditions, ranging from Africa all the way down through Haiti and Cuba and South America, all the way up into Central America and North America, traditions. So, I mean, once you start doing your research and you start learning about these traditions, you can actually start applying what you know through rituals. Experiment with them. Really don't be afraid to roll up your sleeves. Delve into the material, cross reference them with various different traditions. The more you get away from the stereotypes in the titles, the more you're going to understand that not everything classified as evil or baneful is a bad thing. The church will tell you that that black magicians are there to curse you, to trip you up. This is a lie. It's a lie told to keep them in power, to keep that fear going. You want to know what witchcraft is? My advice to you is the same thing that Christopher Penziak said in the Outer Temple of Witchcraft, chapter 1. You want to know what a witch is? Ask a witch. You want to know what witchcraft is? Delve into it. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to get away from the stereotypes. Don't be afraid to participate in a ritual. Don't be afraid to ask questions. The only stupid question is the one that you do not ask. And in my grimoires, I noticed from the first 5 grimoires that I wrote, that I created, I couldn't believe how many question marks, how many apostrophes, how many colons I had put in there. Things that interested me, things that caught my attention, things that I went back to study at a later date because I was currently reading something or experimenting with something and I wanted to go back to it. That's why there's bookmarks. That's why there's a grimoire, a black book, so that you can keep track of what you've done, where you've been. But it's somewhere along the line, you really got to take that good, strong look at yourself. Look at where you've been. Contemplate on it. Is where you are today this place where you thought you'd be? Is this the journey that you thought your road would take? Be it black magic, be it white magic, be it gray magic. Doesn't matter the magic. What matters is the knowledge that you have. Knowledge is the greatest tool. And Alistair Notch really put it greatly in one of his books. I think it was The Inner Sanctum, Volume 1, if I remember correctly. And he said, the way he broke it down was this: knowledge is the greatest weapon against the JCI because they try to hold knowledge, they try to control it so that you, as the practitioner or the wannabe practitioner, can't gain foothold into true power, absolute power within your own reality. To quote Star Trek, it's better to die on your feet in battle than on your knees like a slave. We are heathens to the world because we dare to go into things that the world is too afraid to go into, to ask questions about, to practice even. But by keeping those records, you're able to go back at a later time and say, what the hell was I thinking? Getting into vampiric practices, following Father Sebastian, who was the godfather out of New York. He founded the Coven out there. Getting into Gothcraft and some of the wardrobe from back in the 80s and 90s. It's like, what the hell was I thinking? Not mention the hairstyle. So I mean, you really not only see photos of yourself, but you see what you're doing, where you've been, how you've evolved through your personal confidence in what you're doing, to being able to speak out publicly to stand up for your rights as a Satanist, as a necromancer, as a priest or priestess of voodoo, even hoodooism, no matter what tradition, to know your own personal rights, your own personal, path workings. You really see how far you've seen how far you've come. It's really exciting to look back at these journals and see the different paths that I've gone through, the different grimoires and books that I've referenced, that I've experimented in, to see my main grimoire, the main grimoire that I work with and I've been building for the better part of the last decade, since I started professionally, since I started teaching publicly, putting forth an actual book. It's seeing where I've been and where I am now. A lot of what I thought back then is not what I thought I would be today. You know, I thought I would be a minister and a professor, with a PhD, you know, teaching college level courses on occultism. That was the main goal. But I always found it humorous because of the fact that it was just something about being a minister, an ordained minister, and having your PhD, your doctorate at the same time. There's just some kind of comical aspect to it. Unfortunately, I never pursued that. I never really pursued that avenue. Who knows? I may do that down the line, but for right now, I'm running an order. I have apprentices following. I'm getting a whole new web page put up, teaching and doing ministry for the spirits that I work with. And I'm still learning daily. Because let's face it, the day you stop practicing, the day you stop growing and maturing and bringing forth that spiritual light, that enlightenment, that's the day you might as well put your wand and ritual gear up. Because at that point, you might as well just become an atheist. Because you're no longer a practitioner at that point. But there is and are going to be curveballs that life throws at you. You know, I lived a life of a rebel, a heathen, fighter, traveled from one side of this country to the other repeatedly for 20 years. 20, almost 20 years, about 15 years total, if not more, before I finally put down roots. Here I am with 3 cats, one of which is right behind me, as you can see. Another one's over there in the chair, and I have no idea where the lone one is. He's around here somewhere. But, anyways, here I am, a father to a 2-year-old little boy. Not married, but still, it's there. But there's something to be said about curveballs. There's something to be said about challenges. Just because you want something and you think that you'll work for it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. And the one thing I've learned in my career as a black magician, and what I've seen going back over my grimoires, is this. There's going to be curveballs. You're going to veer off course. But it's how you stay dedicated. It's how you continue to improve. your practices, mature, delving into new areas, experimenting in all fields. That's what matters. That is what truly matters. It's right up there with being loyal to the beings that you work with. When you make an oath, when you make an oath, a physical oath with them, they're going to uphold it. They're going to expect that you uphold it. Because if you don't, they will. And if they don't, then you will. But that's why you make an infernal pact with Lucifer Raphael. A pact of loyalty and of trust. Okay? One of loyalty and trust is in the pact. It's there and it's upheld by this awesome, awesome being. Okay? He's the scribe, he's the ancient pact maker, and he will literally enforce it. And that's the one thing I've seen time and time again. But you've got to get out of your own way. You've got to let go. Let go of the fear, let go of the doubts. You know, we all have pain, we've all had suffering. And this is stuff that's in the past. Leave it there. Leave it in the past because it's nothing more than an anchor holding you down. Think of an open sore. If you keep pouring salt on it, it's never going to heal. But if you learn to let go and you learn to get out of your own way and let things manifest naturally, manipulate those currents in the direction that you want it to go in. Don't go against the current like a fish out going upstream. No, go with the current, but learn to manipulate it to your benefit. Then you'll truly benefit. You will truly, truly benefit from it. But you gotta let go of the fear. Let go of the propaganda. Forget what you've seen in the movies. The shit ain't real. You can't shoot lightning bolts from your hands. You know? You can manifest a demon. You can even become spiritually possessed through evocations. You can learn from these beings to improve your life. But forget what you've seen in the movies. Forget what you're told by the JCI and those who follow the JCI. Let it go. Don't allow yourself to be drawn into divisions or adversities. Let go of the drama. Let go of the chaos. Do your own thing. Become the individual. Become the individual. Manifest your own will, your own desires. You don't need somebody to tell you that you're initiated. You don't need somebody to tell you that, oh, you have to do this to get this. Anyone who picks up a book on witchcraft or sorcery is going to learn the do's and don'ts. But you got to apply it to your life. Actions and words go hand in hand. You can't have nitro without glycerin. You know what I'm saying? Where would all the weaponry be, like say the A bomb, for an example, if they didn't create the atom? Where would dynamite be if they didn't light that wick? It wouldn't happen. Just like reading a book is only going to get you so far. Anton Szandor LaVey wrote about two things. One, a person's perception, an individual's perception. Everybody knew a lion was there, that it was a pet lion, except for one person. And when he realized that lion was there, he tried warning everybody and they just laughed at him. You see, the perception of the manifestation, but also reading a book about being a lion tamer is all good and dandy. But what good is it if you don't have the physical training, the on hands training? What if you don't have, say, for an example, the experience to back it up? What was it that story stated? Oh, right. He spent 12 years studying how to become a lion tamer. Read every book he can get his hands on. And then he decided to hop that fence. They found what was left of him the next morning. Guess it's true what they say. Words and deeds, actions and words go hand in hand. If you're going to learn witchcraft, if you're going to learn to write a tome, you got to write. You got to study. You got to practice. Blood, sweat, and tears. Complete 100 dedication, no doubts, no worries, no propaganda. Just open-mindedness. Just open-mindedness. So going over the past and present is always a good thing. It shows your personal growth, shows you where you were to where you are now, but it also allows you to set up that timeline to find out, hey, is this part of my journey of where I thought I'd be to be where I wanted to be? Hmm. I don't think that it works like that, though. But what I can tell you is magic is real. It's powerful. Just like working with demons and angels. The Jinn, Ugan, Loa, Santa Morte. They're real. Respect it. Continue to grow. Until next time, hope this has been enlightening. Hope it's been educational. And until next time, have a good one.